I'm here today to talk to you about the Luvele yogurt maker and how it pertains to the SCD diet. For a long time I was using an Instapot, as many SCDers do for their yogurt, but I was finding that the temperature during the mid-cycle wasn't holding where it should be, and it was a little bit runny. So I decided to invest in the Luvele, and I'm so glad I did, because the yogurt that I got out of this was quite different than what I was getting out of my Instapot. First, I noticed the consistency was super thick all the way through, and so I know that the temperature was kept at the temperature it should be through the yogurt in order to create that, and it tasted delicious. The yogurt out of the Instapot was runny and clumpy, so I really prefer the Luvele, and I think it's worth the investment. And here's what you're going to need to make some yogurt for the SCD diet specifically. What I also love about the Luvele is it's one of the few yogurt makers on the market that use the 24-hour cycle, and that's what you're going to need for the SCD diet. So the other things you're going to need is a milk form. Now, there are many people who can't have certain milks. We have settled on using the half and half kind. The richer the milk, the less tart the yogurt. So if you don't want to go all the way up to whole milk, try half and half. And we've settled on that. We really like it. It's super rich and thick and creamy and really delicious. The only thing you want to check is when you're picking out your milk or half and half, is that it only says milk and cream on the ingredients. You don't want to have Carageenan in it or anything else. It just should say milk and cream. The Great Value or the Land O'Lakes, which is a popular national brand, is a very common one that you can use. Then you're going to need your starter. There are several types of starters. These are the three most popular. Dannon has a whole milk version, and you have to look at it very carefully that it says whole milk plain. And you're going to use a half a cup of that for a full batch. It's getting a little bit hard to find these days, so a lot of people are switching. You can use the Gourmet style, or I really like the GI Pro Health, GI Pro Start. It uses 1/16 of a teaspoon, which is half of a 1/8, so very little, and it lasts a couple of years. So it's a good investment too. I'll link those below. The next thing you're going to want to do is get your pot and your thermometer. And if you pour your cream or milk into the pot, you're going to want to set it on medium-high and watch it very carefully. It's only going to take about 5-7 minutes, and you're going to want to get it to the boiling state, which is 180 degrees. Now, it boils over very quickly, and I think it's kind of a rite of passage if you have it boil over, because then you will always be checking it. And if you can hold the boil at 180 degrees for 2 to 3 minutes, it's really hard to do, but if you can do that, it will create more of the good probiotics that you're wanting to have. And then you're going to take it off the heat. So I'm going to go and set mine to boil, and then we'll go from there. Okay, now that my milk has reached a boil, you take it off the heat, and you're going to want to get it to room temperature. There's a couple different ways. You can put it in the fridge, you can put it in an ice bath, or you can just leave it out, and that will take a couple of hours. So you have to make sure that your timing is going to be right for your 24-hour cycle. You don't want the cycle to be finishing in the middle of when you're sleeping, or in the middle of when you're at work and you can't put it in the fridge. So just figure that out and go from there. So I'm going to leave mine out for a couple hours, and then we'll come back after it's reached room temperature. Okay, now our yogurt is cooled to room temperature. We're ready to add the starter. If you notice, on a lot of milks, not every milk, but there'll be a skin on top. You can leave that. It doesn't hurt anything. Or you can take it off, whatever your preference. But before you add the starter, you want to take about a cup of the milk out into a separate bowl. You're going to mix your starter into that. It's just a little bit easier. You make sure that the starter gets blended So for the GI Pro Start that I'm using 1/8 teaspoon. And then I'm gonna whisk that well into the milk that I've separated. Then I'm gonna add it back into the milk and make sure that is mixed really well. Then you're gonna get your Luvele all set. Open the top. And pour everything in. Close the lid, push down the button, and you're gonna fill it with water. You wanna go past the first line, but not past the second. I find that 2 cups usually works. Then when you set it up, set the time and the temperature. So you're gonna push the first button for the hour cycle, for the temperature cycle. And for SCD, you wanna do the 100 or 104. I keep it at 104 degrees. And then the second, you wanna change it to the 24-hour cycle. And then the most important, you want to make sure to hit confirm. I know in the first time I used it, I didn't hit that. So hit the confirm and all set, and then you wait until tomorrow. So our 24-hour cycle is finished. So you want to carefully take the lid off because there'll be a lot of condensation, and you can take the jar itself out, kind of wipe it down a little bit. It's not ready to eat yet. You want to put it in the fridge for about 6 hours. But if you take it out, take the lid off, you can already see how super thick it is. And it's gonna get even more so when you put it in the fridge. After it's done about 6 hours, you can eat it right away. You can drizzle honey on it, some homemade granola, put fruit in it of course, or even frozen fruit is great. You can of course add it to smoothies too. Now you can also use it for cooking. I use it in a lot of recipes for dinner. My husband happens to have to count carbs, so we like to put it in these little dishes, these containers, which hold a 1/2 cup, so he knows what that is right away, and he can just grab and go with these and put them in lunches and things. And then what I like to do is drip the yogurt, and I will probably be dripping most of this because we make a cheesecake and a dip out of it that is kind of a weekly thing. To drip the yogurt, what you want to do is get some cheesecloth and a fine mesh strainer and put that over a bowl, and then you're going to scoop, this is after it's set, you're going to scoop the yogurt out, put it on top of the cheesecloth, just cover it up, and then put it in the fridge for about 24 hours. And then all of the whey drips out of it, and what you're left with is a cream cheese consistency. So for SCD followers, anything that you can use cream cheese in, you can use this for the cream cheese. It also substitutes for the farmer's cheese, the DCCC, if you can't find it in your area. Honestly, I never liked the flavor and taste of that, so I much prefer the dripped yogurt. So I will typically do a batch of yogurt to drip all of it and use that for the baking, and then use a batch to eat. And it's gonna last about 2 weeks until the good probiotics start to fade away, but you can eat the yogurt for probably up to 3 weeks. There's such a variety of things that you can use with this yogurt, and it's so good for you and has tons of probiotics that really for someone on the SCD diet, it's invaluable. You want to eat at least, you can eat up to 3 cups a day, but you want to at least eat a cup a day to get that good bacteria in your gut. So I hope this is helpful. We love our Luvele yogurt maker, and I hope you find this informative.